Princess Lyra stood at the edge of the balcony, her pale blue eyes scanning the floating city below. Zerathia glowed softly in the evening light, the luminescent plants casting shimmering colors across the streets and towers. She loved her planet, with its floating gardens, crystal rivers, and sky bridges connecting the towers. But tonight her heart felt heavy. Something had shifted in her life, and she could not ignore it. The announcement had come that morning. The Council of Elders, the wise leaders of Zerathia, had issued a royal decree. Princess Lyra must marry a human. The words still rang in her ears, echoing like a strange song she did not understand. Humans were creatures from a distant planet, mysterious and often unpredictable. Zerathians had observed them from afar, learning about their creativity and resilience, but few had ever met one face to face. And now she was to marry one. Lyra's hand clenched around the balcony railing. "Why me?" she whispered, though she already knew the answer. Her parents, the king and queen, had made this decision for the good of Zerathia. A marriage alliance between humans and Zerathians could secure trade, technology, and knowledge for generations. It was a duty she had to accept, whether she liked it or not. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft flutter of wings. A small Zerathian messenger bird, its feathers glowing faintly, landed on her shoulder. In its beak it carried a sealed letter, stamped with the official mark of the Royal Council. Lyra took it gently and broke the seal. "Princess Lyra, you are reminded that preparations for the union with the human, Captain Elias Kane, will begin immediately. All arrangements, including cultural orientation and ceremonial guidance, will follow the Council's instructions." Lyra exhaled slowly. The words confirmed her fear. There was no escape. She had always been strong, intelligent, and independent. She had trained herself in the arts of diplomacy, science, and leadership. But she had never imagined being paired with a human. The thought filled her with unease. Humans were unpredictable. They had no knowledge of Zerathian ways, our customs, or our delicate sense of honor. How could they ever understand her world? As the evening deepened, Lyra walked through the palace halls, her footsteps echoing softly. The walls glowed with faint light, illuminating the mosaics of past Zerathian rulers. Portraits of her ancestors lined the corridor, each one staring down with quiet expectation. Their expressions seemed stern yet understanding, as if reminding her that her life had never been entirely her own. She sighed and pressed her hand against a cool wall panel, feeling its gentle vibration, a reminder of the palace's ancient energy systems. Even in their beauty, they could not comfort her tonight. Her private tutor, Master Orin, found her in the hall. A small, wiry Zerathian with silver hair and gentle eyes, he had guided her since she was a child. "Princess," he said softly, bowing slightly, "are you prepared to begin the orientation? The human will arrive tomorrow." Lyra shook her head, frustration mixing with fear. "I am not prepared, Master Orin. How can I be? I do not even know him. I do not know what to expect. He may not respect Zerathian traditions. He may not understand anything about us." Master Orin smiled faintly, though his eyes held concern. "Princess, you are worried, yes. That is natural. But humans are resourceful. They may surprise you. You have faced challenges before, and you have always risen above them. This is no different, except in its unfamiliarity." Lyra looked away, gazing through the tall windows at the glowing city. "I am afraid, Master Orin. I do not want to be trapped in a life that is not mine. I want to make my own choices. I want freedom." Master Orin approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Freedom is earned, Princess, not given. Sometimes the greatest freedom comes from embracing the duties we fear most. You are not powerless. Even in this, you have a choice. How you respond, how you act, how you lead." Lyra nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She had always admired Master Orin's wisdom, but tonight even his comfort felt fragile. She returned to her chambers, where a small balcony overlooked the palace gardens. Softly glowing flowers waved in the gentle breeze, and the air smelled of sweet nectar. She thought about humans. What would he be like? Would he be kind, strong? Would he respect her? Or would he see her only as a duty, a symbol of Zerathian compliance? Unable to sleep, she decided to explore. Perhaps she thought she might find a way to understand humans before they arrived. She accessed the palace archives, a vast repository of Zerathian history and interstellar observation. Ancient texts recorded the few encounters with humans centuries ago. Some accounts spoke of their ingenuity, building machines and weapons from nothing. Others described humans as unpredictable, even reckless, but always determined. Lyra's heart pounded with conflicting emotions: fear, curiosity, and a spark of intrigue. She studied a holographic map of Earth, the human home planet. It was a small world compared to Zarathia, full of oceans, forests, and mountains, a world so different, yet capable of producing beings who had ventured into space, who had explored the stars. Her mind raced. Could a human be her ally? Could he be someone who would understand her world and its complexities? The palace chimed softly, signaling the late hour. Lyra closed the archives and walked back to her balcony. She let the wind brush against her face, calming her restless thoughts. Duty weighed heavily on her, but so did the possibility of discovery. She had always believed that the stars held secrets and that humans, as strangers in her skies, might hold some of them. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, a stern but kind tone. Lyra, our people need strength. Not just in skill, but in heart. Sometimes the most unexpected alliances are the strongest. Lyra leaned on the balcony, staring at the twin moons rising above the horizon. Her mind wandered to the human who would arrive tomorrow, Captain Elias Kane. She did not know his face, his manner, or his ways. Yet she could not deny a strange sense of anticipation. The unknown had always been frightening, but it could also bring growth. Perhaps this human would challenge her. Perhaps he would teach her something new, and perhaps, she thought, allowing herself a small, hesitant smile, perhaps she would not be entirely trapped. The next morning, the palace buzzed with activity. Courtiers moved swiftly, adjusting decorations and preparing ceremonial spaces. Zarathian technology and artistry combined in breathtaking displays, ensuring that the first impression of their world was unforgettable. Lyra walked through the halls, feeling a mixture of dread and excitement. Her long robes shimmered with soft light, reflecting her royal status, yet her mind was elsewhere, on the human who would soon enter her life. Master Orin joined her once more. "Remember, Princess," he said gently, "humans value sincerity. Approach him with honesty and you will find he responds in kind. Do not let fear guide your actions." Lyra nodded. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. She knew the moment of meeting would define the first step in a journey she could not yet imagine. Duty, curiosity, and hope mingled in her chest as she moved toward the grand doors of the palace courtyard. Beyond them, her life would change forever. As the morning sun touched the floating city with golden light, Princess Lyra's heart raced. She did not yet know whether she would find a friend, a partner, or a stranger in Captain Elias Kane. But one thing was certain: the arrival of the human would mark the beginning of a story that neither she nor her people would ever forget. And with that thought, she stepped forward into the courtyard, ready to face the unknown. The grand doors of the Zarathian palace opened with a soft hum, revealing the shining courtyard below. The sun reflected off the floating towers and glassy walkways, creating a spectacle of colors that danced across the palace grounds. Princess Lyra stood at the top of the wide staircase, her heart pounding with anticipation and uncertainty. Today she would meet the human she was to marry, Captain Elias Kane. The sound of a starship landing echoed faintly in the distance. Lyra's blue eyes widened as she saw the sleek human vessel descend from the sky, its polished metal glinting in the morning light. The ship moved with a grace and precision that seemed almost alive. Her people had never seen a human arrive in such a manner before, and the sight stirred both curiosity and caution within her. When the ramp extended, a figure appeared. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and steady eyes, Elias Kane stepped onto the courtyard. He wore a simple uniform, functional but neat with insignia denoting rank and origin. There was a confidence in the way he moved, but it was tempered by a polite restraint, as if he understood the weight of the moment. Lyra's breath caught. She had expected someone strange, awkward, perhaps even frightening, but the human before her seemed calm, almost serene. There was something in his gaze, a quiet intelligence and openness that made her pause. For a moment she was speechless. She had imagined countless scenarios, yet none of them prepared her for this. Elias raised his hand in a respectful salute. "Princess Lyra," he said, his voice clear and steady, "it is an honor to meet you." Lyra hesitated before lowering herself gracefully down the staircase. "Captain Kane," she said softly, her voice tinged with awe. "Welcome to Zarathia. I hope your journey was smooth. Elias smiled faintly, as smooth as it could be. Your planet is beautiful. I have never seen anything like it. Lyra's curiosity sparked. Humans spoke differently from Zerathians, their words simple but direct, carrying weight without unnecessary embellishment. There was honesty in his tone, and she found herself listening closely, noting every subtle movement, every glance. The palace aides and council members moved around them, preparing for the ceremonial welcome. Lyra noticed the contrast between the human and her own people. Where Zerathians glided lightly, almost floating above the ground, Elias walked with firm steps, grounded and strong. She wondered how he would adapt to their customs, the floating walkways, the delicate gestures of their culture. Shall we walk? Lyra asked, gesturing toward the crystal paths that led through the courtyard gardens. Elias nodded politely, falling into step beside her. The gardens were alive with color and light. Bioluminescent flowers glowed faintly even in the morning sun, and small streams of water curved gracefully along the paths. Birds with silver feathers and soft musical calls flitted through the trees. You have a remarkable planet, Elias said, glancing around in awe. It feels alive, almost like it's watching us. Lyra smiled slightly. Humans notice details in a way Zerathians often overlooked. Our world is very sensitive to energy and balance, she explained. Even small changes can have large effects. It is why we respect the land and the sky. Everything is connected. Elias nodded, absorbing her words. I can see that. I would like to understand more, if you allow me. Lyra's surprise softened into something new, curiosity. His willingness to learn, to listen, impressed her. Very well, she said. Then you must follow the rules of Zerathia. Respect the balance and do not rush. Our world does not forgive impatience easily. Elias chuckled lightly, a sound so natural it made Lyra blink. I will do my best, Princess. I do not intend to offend your people or your planet. As they walked, Lyra explained the customs of her world. She spoke of the floating gardens, the sacred rituals of energy alignment, and the subtle gestures that showed respect among Zerathians. Elias listened carefully, asking questions at the right moments. He did not pretend to understand immediately, but he did not dismiss anything either. The more they spoke, the more Lyra noticed his calm confidence. Humans often relied on creativity and quick thinking, and she could see it in his eyes. There was a quiet strength there, tempered by thoughtfulness. She began to wonder if perhaps humans were not as reckless as some of the ancient records suggested. Perhaps they were capable of more than her people had imagined. Suddenly a messenger ran toward them, wings flapping rapidly. Princess Lyra! Captain Kane. The ceremonial preparations are ready? The council requests your presence. Lyra nodded and led Elias toward the central pavilion where the elders waited. The pavilion was magnificent, adorned with glowing crystals and intricate carvings that depicted the history of Zerathia. The council members, dressed in ceremonial robes, regarded Elias carefully. Some showed suspicion, others mild curiosity. Elias bowed respectfully. I am honored to meet you all, he said. His voice carried confidence, but also humility. The council whispered among themselves, surprised by his demeanor. Humans, they thought, were often brash or careless. Elias Kane seemed neither. The eldest of the council, a tall Zerathian with luminous eyes, spoke first. Captain Kane, you have come to Zerathia at a time of great importance. Our alliance depends on trust, understanding, and respect. Do you accept these responsibilities? I do, Elias replied without hesitation. I will learn, I will respect, and I will do my best to honor Zerathia. The council exchanged glances. Lyra felt a small flicker of relief. Perhaps this human was not as foreign or unpredictable as she had feared. Perhaps he could be an ally. The ceremony began with the lighting of the energy crystals, which glowed brighter as the human and princess approached. Lyra guided Elias through the rituals, explaining the symbolism of each movement and gesture. At first, Elias moved cautiously, but soon he followed her lead naturally, adapting to the customs with surprising grace. Lyra could not hide a small smile. Humans were quick learners, and she had expected hesitation, even clumsiness. Yet here he was, moving with awareness, asking questions when unsure and showing respect at every step. After the ceremony, they walked through the palace gardens again, away from the eyes of the council. Elias stopped near a stream, looking thoughtfully at the glowing water. Your world, It is unlike anything I have known, he said softly. It feels alive, not just in beauty, but in purpose. You live with intention, and it shows in everything. Lyra blinked, slightly taken aback. Humans rarely notice such subtleties. You notice more than I expected, she said. Most humans see only what is useful or what is immediately obvious. He smiled faintly. Perhaps we humans have more to learn, just as you have more to teach. Maybe that is why we are here, to learn from one another. For the first time since the announcement, Lyra felt something shift within her. Fear was still there, but it was mingled with curiosity. Perhaps this human was not a burden or a threat. Perhaps he could be someone she could understand, someone she could trust. The sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of pink, purple, and gold. The courtyard glowed softly in the evening light. Lyra and Elias walked slowly, talking quietly about their worlds, their hopes, and their responsibilities. Neither spoke of love, nor did they need to. The bond of respect and understanding was forming naturally, quietly, and profoundly. Lyra realized that this human, Captain Elias Kane, might not just be a stranger she was forced to marry. He might be someone who could stand beside her as an equal, someone who could navigate the challenges of their worlds together. As they reached the edge of the garden, Lyra paused. She looked at Elias, her heart still uncertain but no longer entirely fearful. Tomorrow your training in our customs will begin in earnest, she said softly. There is much to learn and the challenges are not small. Are you ready? Elias met her gaze without hesitation. I'm ready, Princess. Whatever is required, I will do my best. Lyra nodded. The first step had been taken. The human had arrived, and he had proven that he could walk their world without faltering. There was still much to test, much to learn, and many obstacles ahead. But for now, the fear that had filled her heart was tempered by hope, curiosity, and a growing sense of possibility. The night fell over Zerathia, the twin moons rising above the floating city, casting silver light across the gardens. Princess Lyra returned to her chambers, her mind racing with thoughts of the human, his calm strength, and the adventure that lay ahead. She did not yet know if she would come to trust him fully, or even if she would grow to care for him, but she knew this. Her life had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. For the first time in days, Lyra felt a small spark of excitement. The unknown had arrived, and it was intriguing. The morning sun bathed the Zerathian palace in golden light, glinting off the floating towers and crystal walkways. Princess Lyra stood at the central training grounds, her robes flowing lightly in the breeze. Today marked the beginning of the trials, tests designed by the Council to determine whether Captain Elias Kane could understand and respect Zerathian ways. It was also an opportunity for Lyra to see how this human would handle the unexpected, the strange, and the dangerous. Elias Kane arrived promptly, standing tall and alert. He had spent the morning observing Zerathian customs, practicing small gestures and learning phrases in their melodic language. Though he looked calm, Lyra sensed his mind racing with calculations and strategies, a sign of his adaptability. Are you ready, Captain? Lyra asked, her tone both formal and curious. I am, Elias replied with a slight nod. I understand the importance of this. I want to do well. Lyra studied him for a moment, then led him toward the first challenge, the crystal labyrinth. It was a maze of glowing crystal walls that reflected light in confusing patterns. The labyrinth tested observation, patience, and respect for Zerathian energy flows. Any misstep could trigger alarms or disturbances, disrupting the delicate balance of the palace grounds. You must move carefully, Lyra warned. The crystals respond to touch and energy. One wrong move and you could set off the warning systems. Focus not only on your steps but on your surroundings. Elias nodded, stepping lightly onto the pathway. Lyra followed, observing him closely. As expected, his human instincts initially caused him to rely on bold movements, scanning for obvious openings. But he quickly adjusted, sensing the energy of the labyrinth and moving with a precision that surprised even Lyra. You're learning faster than I anticipated, she said quietly, a hint of admiration in her voice. Elias smiled briefly. I've had practice learning unfamiliar systems. It's interesting figuring out how your crystals respond. As they progressed deeper, the labyrinth grew more complex. Shimmering walls created illusions, paths that seemed to vanish, and echoes of sound that confused the senses. A careless step could trigger a minor alarm, releasing a harmless but startling burst of light. Elias moved steadily, pausing to observe patterns and energy flows. When the walls shifted, he adapted immediately, using both logic and intuition. Lyra watched, impressed. She had expected difficulty. Humans were clever but not always sensitive to energy in the same way Zerathians were. Yet Elias balanced both. Finally, they reached the center of the labyrinth where a pool of glowing water reflected the sky. Lyra extended a hand toward him. "You passed," she said softly. "Not because you avoided mistakes entirely, but because you adapted, learned, and respected the system. That is what matters most here." Elias's eyes met hers, and for the first time Lyra saw a flicker of pride in him. "Thank you, Princess. I didn't want to disappoint you or your people." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. Perhaps humans could rise to challenges if they were given guidance and respect. Perhaps this human could be trusted. Their next trial took them to the bioluminescent forest, a dense grove filled with glowing plants and creatures. The forest was alive in every sense. Its flora and fauna responded to emotion, energy, and movement. For Zerathians, walking through the forest required mindfulness and balance. One careless step could harm the ecosystem or trigger defensive behaviors from its inhabitants. Lyra led the way, demonstrating careful footwork and soft hand gestures to communicate respect to the living beings around them. Elias followed, adjusting his stride and posture to match hers. The forest seemed to respond to their harmony, glowing brighter as they moved. Midway through, a large creature emerged from the shadows. It was a guardian of the forest, its skin shimmering in shades of green and blue. It observed them silently, tilting its head in curiosity. Lyra froze, understanding the silent communication of the forest. The creature would test them, seeking proof of respect and intent. Elias did not panic. He lowered himself slightly, arms open, showing no threat. "It's okay," he whispered softly. "We're friends." The creature tilted its head, then cautiously approached. Elias extended a hand, not touching it too quickly, showing restraint. Lyra watched in awe as the human mirrored the subtleties of Zerathian interaction without instruction. The forest guardian finally stepped closer, allowing them passage. You handled that perfectly," Lyra said, her voice full of amazement. "Most Zerathians would have been nervous at first, but you respected the forest instinctively." Elias shrugged lightly. "I've had to adapt to new environments before. Sometimes you have to listen carefully even when you don't fully understand." The final trial of the day was the puzzle of the sky bridges, a series of suspended walkways that connected towers high above the city. The bridges tested balance, strategy, and collaboration. A misstep could mean a fall, and coordination between partners was essential. Lyra and Elias began crossing the first bridge together. The walkway shimmered with energy, responding subtly to their steps. They had to communicate silently, adjusting weight and timing. Initially, Elias's human instincts made him quick to step boldly, but Lyra's subtle hand gestures and guidance helped him slow, match rhythm, and respond to the energy beneath their feet. Halfway across, a sudden shift in the bridge's alignment tested their trust. Lyra steadied herself, looking at Elias. "Trust me," she said quietly. "I trust you," he replied immediately, matching her movements. Together they navigated the shifting bridge, each step a dance of balance and mutual awareness. When they reached the end, Lyra felt a rush of exhilaration. "You see," she said, smiling, "trust and understanding are as important as skill. You have both." Elias looked at her, a faint blush on his cheeks. "And you've guided me well. I could not have done it without you." Lyra realized something important. Humans were capable not only of learning, but also of connecting in ways Zerathians sometimes overlooked. Elias had adapted, respected, and collaborated. He had proven himself not only intelligent, but also thoughtful, aware, and dependable. Yet not everything was easy. A rival noble, sensing the growing admiration for Elias, had begun to spread whispers. He hoped to undermine the human, questioning his loyalty and ability to respect Zerathian ways. Lyra sensed the subtle tension, the shifting glances and hushed words. It was a reminder that even as trust grew between them, danger, political or otherwise, was never far away. By the end of the day, Lyra and Elias returned to the palace, tired but invigorated. They had faced the labyrinth, the forest, and the sky bridges, proving that humans and Zerathians could work together. Lyra felt a sense of pride she had not expected. This human who had seemed so foreign was beginning to feel like an ally. Elias glanced at her, exhaustion evident but tempered by satisfaction. Today was intense, but I understand more about your world than I ever could have imagined. And I understand more about humans, Lyra replied softly. Perhaps there is more to your people than the record suggested. Perhaps humans are capable of much more than we realized. The palace shimmered in the evening light, its towers glowing softly. Lyra knew challenges lay ahead. More trials, political obstacles, and the growing expectations of both worlds. Yet she also knew something else. Trust could be built even across galaxies. And in Elias Kane, she saw the first glimmer of a partner who could face those challenges with her. As night fell, the twin moons rose over Zerathia. Lyra returned to her chambers, reflecting on the day. Fear and uncertainty still lingered, but they were now joined by admiration, curiosity, and a growing sense of connection. Perhaps this union, though forced by duty, could become something extraordinary. For the first time, Lyra felt that this human was not just a stranger. Not just a representative of a distant world, he was someone she could trust. And in the trials to come, trust would be the most valuable tool of all. The morning sun had barely risen when a sudden alarm echoed through the floating city. The gentle hum of Zerathian energy systems was replaced by urgent vibrations. Princess Lyra awoke with a start, her heart pounding. Something was wrong. Elias Kane was already at her side, having been alerted by palace security systems. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice calm but alert. Lyra shook her head. "I do not know yet. But something is threatening the city. We must get to the command center immediately." The palace corridors were alive with activity as aides and guards rushed to respond. The city's energy systems, delicate and highly sensitive, were fluctuating dangerously. Floating towers swayed slightly, and the crystal bridges shimmered with unstable energy. A massive storm, natural yet amplified by some interference, was approaching rapidly. It was unlike anything the Zerathians had ever seen. The council convened immediately in the central chamber. The eldest Zerathian spoke gravely. "The storm is intensifying, but it is not entirely natural. Someone has tampered with our energy channels. Our city is in danger." Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. She had sensed whispers of discontent among certain nobles, but she had not imagined sabotage. She glanced at Elias. "We need to act quickly," she said. "I cannot manage this alone." Elias nodded. "Then let us lead together. Tell me what I need to do." The council quickly outlined the plan. Certain energy nodes had been destabilized, threatening to collapse the floating towers if not corrected. Lyra, familiar with the delicate systems of her city, would guide the team. Elias, with his human ingenuity and quick thinking, would identify and implement solutions to stabilize the nodes. The first node was high above the city, suspended on a narrow crystal walkway. Lyra led the way, carefully monitoring the energy readings. Elias followed, adjusting to the subtle vibrations of the walkway. Suddenly, one of the bridge segments trembled violently. Lyra stopped, steadying herself, and gestured to Elias. "We must work together. I will stabilize the energy flow from here, but you must secure the node physically." "Be careful," Elias nodded, moving with precision. Humans were not accustomed to such delicate systems, yet his focus and adaptability impressed Lyra. He reached the node, his hands moving quickly but gently over the controls. Sparks of energy danced across his fingers, but he did not flinch. "Steady," Lyra whispered, her own hands glowing as she channeled her energy to assist him. Together they synchronized their movements. Lyra's understanding of Zerathian energy and Elias's quick problem-solving combined perfectly. The node stabilized and the immediate danger passed, but the storm was not over. As they moved to the next energy hub, Lyra sensed another disturbance, a deliberate act of sabotage. A rival noble, hoping to undermine Elias and the Alliance, had tampered with a critical energy line. The city's stability depended on swift action, and any hesitation could be disastrous. Lyra turned to Elias. "This is no accident. Someone wants to see us fail." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we will not fail. Show me the problem, and I will find a solution." They arrived at the destabilized node. Energy sparks crackled dangerously, threatening to overload the system. Lyra instructed the nearby Zerathian engineers while Elias examined the circuitry and interface. Humans were skilled at improvisation, and Elias quickly devised a temporary stabilization method using tools and materials available in the control chamber. Lyra watched in amazement as he worked. His solution was simple yet effective, demonstrating both ingenuity and courage. "Humans are more capable than I thought," she murmured to herself. With the node stabilized, the storm's effects began to lessen, but the danger was not yet gone. The rival noble had orchestrated multiple points of interference, hoping to overwhelm them. Lyra and Elias moved swiftly from one crisis to another, their coordination improving with every challenge. At one point, a large floating tower began to tilt precariously. Citizens below watched in fear as the structure swayed. Lyra directed the emergency teams while Elias assessed structural integrity. "We need a counterbalance," he said, pointing to a series of energy regulators. "If we redistribute the flow here and here, it should stabilize the tower temporarily." Lyra nodded, guiding her energy to assist him. Together they managed to bring the tower back to equilibrium. Citizens cheered softly as the immediate threat passed, but there was no time for celebration. The storm was still active, and other towers required attention. As they worked, Lyra began to notice something remarkable. Humans, despite being physically different, could adapt quickly, think critically under pressure, and coordinate with her people in ways she had not expected. Elias was not just capable, he was inspiring. The trust between them, once tentative, had grown into a seamless partnership. Finally, they reached the last critical node, the heart of the city's energy system. The storm raged above, and the rival noble's interference had left the node dangerously unstable. Lyra's heart pounded. "This is the most delicate part," she said. "If this fails, the entire city could be lost." Elias did not hesitate. "We will handle it together. Lead and I will follow." Lyra focused her energy, stabilizing the flows as Elias worked with mechanical precision. Sparks flew, energy hummed, and for a moment it seemed the storm might overwhelm them. But Elias's human ingenuity, combined with Lyra's understanding, created a perfect balance. Slowly the node stabilized and the city's energy returned to normal. Lyra exhaled, her hands lowering as the glow faded. Elias stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "We did it," he said, a faint smile breaking through his fatigue. The council and palace staff arrived, their expressions a mixture of relief and awe. "You have saved the city," the eldest Zerathian said solemnly. "Not only with skill but with courage and unity. This is a new chapter for Zerathia and humans alike." Lyra looked at Elias, her chest swelling with respect and gratitude. "You have proven yourself," she said softly. "Not just to the council, but to me. I underestimated humans and I was wrong. You have my trust." Elias smiled, a warmth in his eyes. "And you have mine, Princess. Together we are stronger." The rival noble was exposed soon after, his sabotage revealed and plans foiled. The council handled the situation, ensuring justice without public scandal. Lyra realized that even in politics and intrigue, humans could be allies, capable of understanding complex social and ethical challenges. That evening, as the twin moons rose over Zerathia, Lyra and Elias stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The storm had passed, leaving a sparkling sky and calm waters below. Citizens moved safely across bridges, unaware of the danger they had survived. "Today was," Lyra began, searching for words. "It was more than I expected. You handled everything with courage and intelligence. I am impressed." Elias shrugged lightly, though his eyes reflected pride. "I only did what was necessary. I wanted to help. Your people, your city, it's worth protecting." Lyra smiled, a feeling of admiration and trust filling her chest. "You have not only proven your skill but your character. I did not expect to feel this." She paused, unsure how to continue, then added softly, "Perhaps this union, forced as it was, can be something more than duty. Perhaps it can be a partnership." Elias reached out, gently touching her hand. "If you are willing, Princess, I would be honored to build that partnership with you." Lyra nodded. For the first time since the royal decree, she felt a sense of hope. Fear and doubt had not vanished, but they were tempered by trust, admiration, and the realization that humans, when given the chance, could rise to meet even the greatest challenges. The night sky shimmered with stars, and the floating city glowed with a gentle light. Princess Lyra felt a sense of purpose and connection she had never known before. The storm had tested them, but it had also shown her the value of courage, trust, and collaboration. Humans were more than she had imagined, and Captain Elias Kane had become not just an ally, but a partner in every sense. As the palace lights dimmed and the city settled into quiet, Lyra and Elias remained on the balcony, talking softly about the events of the day, their hopes and the future. They did not speak of love, not yet, but a bond had formed, one built on trust, respect, and shared experience. And in that moment, Lyra realized that the alliance between humans and Zerathians was not just political. It was a beginning, a chance to face the unknown together, a chance to build something stronger than fear or expectation, a chance to create a future where courage, intelligence, and unity could bridge worlds. The morning sky over Zerathia was clear, the twin moons fading into the pale light of dawn. The floating city had recovered from the storm, its towers standing tall, its energy flows stable and harmonious. Princess Lyra walked across the palace gardens, her robes brushing the softly glowing flowers. Today was the day of the final ceremony, the official affirmation of the alliance between Zerathia and humanity. Captain Elias Kane was already in the garden, examining a small crystal device that monitored the energy flow of the palace. He looked up as Lyra approached, his dark eyes bright with focus and quiet excitement. "Good morning, Princess," he said, offering a slight bow. "It seems the city is fully restored. Your people can breathe easy today." Lyra smiled, a feeling of warmth rising within her. "Thanks to you, Captain Kane. You have done more than anyone could have expected. You did not just solve problems, you earned the trust of my people." Elias shook his head. "I only followed your lead. Without your guidance, none of it would have been possible. You understand your world in ways no outsider could." The day's preparations moved swiftly. Zerathian nobles and human delegates alike gathered in the central pavilion, a magnificent structure of glowing crystals and delicate carvings. The ceremony was to solidify the union, not only in duty but in mutual respect and collaboration. Lyra could feel the anticipation in the air, the weight of history, the hope for the future. As the time approached, Lyra noticed subtle glances from council members. They were impressed, not only with Elias's skill but with the way he had integrated himself into Zerathian life. His calm confidence, intelligence, and respect for their customs had won admiration across the palace. Elias stepped beside Lyra as they entered the pavilion. The glow of the crystals bathed them in soft light, reflecting off the flowing robes and intricate jewelry of the Zerathians. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the significance of the moment. She glanced at Elias. "Are you ready?" "I am," he said, "for whatever comes next." The council began the ceremony with formal words speaking of duty, trust, and the shared future between humans and Zerathians. Lyra followed the traditional gestures and Elias mirrored them with care. Every movement, every phrase was executed with precision and respect, demonstrating his commitment to the union. When it was time for Lyra and Elias to speak, she stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. "Today we do not unite only in duty. We unite in understanding, respect, and shared purpose. The trials we have faced together have shown me that humans are capable of greatness, courage, and wisdom. And Captain Kane has proven himself not only as an ally but as a partner." Elias's expression was calm but earnest. "Princess Lyra, your guidance, wisdom, and courage have taught me more than I could have imagined. I do not enter this union as a stranger or a visitor. I enter as someone who wishes to learn, to protect, and to stand beside you. Together we will face challenges, explore possibilities, and build a future for our people." The council nodded, their expressions a mix of approval and relief. The ceremony continued, with energy crystals lighting up in harmony, a symbol of unity between their worlds. Citizens and delegates watched in awe as the partnership was affirmed, not forced but chosen through trust and respect. After the formal ceremony, Lyra and Elias walked through the palace gardens once more. The soft glow of the flowers reflected the serenity of the city. For a moment they walked in silence, each contemplating the journey they had shared. "You have changed my perspective," Lyra said finally. "I feared this union would trap me, but now I see it as a new beginning. You have shown me the strength of humanity, and how courage and respect can build bridges between worlds." Elias smiled faintly. "And you have shown me the value of patience, understanding, and harmony. Your world is delicate yet strong. It has taught me that power is not just about force but about balance." They stopped near a small crystal fountain, its waters glowing with energy. Lyra looked at Elias, a feeling of admiration and warmth filling her chest. "I do not know what the future holds," she said softly, "but I know that with you by my side we can face it together." Elias reached out, taking her hand gently. "We will," he said. "No matter what challenges arise, we will meet them together. Your people, my people. We will build something stronger than fear or doubt. We will build trust, courage, and unity." As the sun climbed higher, citizens of Zerathia gathered in the gardens. They cheered softly, celebrating not only the alliance but the strength and courage of their leaders. Lyra and Elias moved among them, answering questions, sharing smiles, and showing that humans and Zerathians could work together as equals. The rival noble who had once attempted sabotage had been publicly confronted and removed from positions of power. His plans had failed, not through force alone, but through the combination of human ingenuity and Zerathian wisdom. Lyra realized that leadership was more than authority. It was collaboration, trust and courage in the face of adversity. Later, as the day settled into evening, Lyra and Elias returned to their private balcony. The city below glowed softly, peaceful after the events of recent days. Lyra looked out over the floating towers and bridges, a sense of pride and hope filling her heart. "You know," she said, turning to Elias, "I feared this day. I feared meeting a human, sharing my life, and facing the unknown. But now, I'm not afraid. You have shown me that humans are capable of so much, and more than that, you have shown me that we can face anything together." Elias smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "I felt the same fear, Princess. But I also felt the chance to learn, to grow, and to prove that humans can rise to challenges no matter how alien or difficult. With you guiding me, I have discovered strength I did not know I had." Lyra laughed softly, a sound filled with relief and joy. "Perhaps this is the beginning of something extraordinary. Not just for us, but for all of Zerathia and humanity." Elias nodded. "I believe it is. Together we can build a future that bridges worlds, combining our strengths, wisdom, and courage. This is just the start of a story that neither of us could have imagined alone." As the night deepened, the twin moons rose once more, casting silver light across the city. Princess Lyra and Captain Elias Kane stood side by side, looking out over their people, their alliance, and the promise of tomorrow. For the first time, Lyra felt entirely at peace. The human who had once seemed strange, unknown, and frightening was now her partner, her ally, and her friend. Together they had faced danger, solved crises, and proven that trust and courage could overcome fear and uncertainty. And in that moment, as stars sparkled above and the city glowed below, Lyra knew that this was more than duty. This was a new beginning, a partnership built on respect, understanding, and the shared courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The human and the princess, once strangers separated by galaxies, had found common ground. And with that bond, the future of Zerathia and humanity looked brighter than ever. Together, they would explore the stars, strengthen their alliance, and show that trust, courage, and unity could build bridges across worlds. And so, under the twin moons and glowing city lights, Princess Lyra and Captain Elias Kane stepped forward into a future of hope, adventure, and shared destiny.